Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 4 of the Advent Renew Your Mind Challenge. Hopefully, yesterday you were able to catch up on some videos, rest and relax, and then write down your truths. So, I said the day before that fear is one of the things that is driving our brain to think in poor neural pathways. We also know that truth drowns out fear. So if you didn't yesterday, try to take at least 10 minutes today and write down every truth in your life. It'll begin training your brain to focus on truth instead of lies and instead of fear, which is ultimately going to change your brain's neural pathways. Yielded has kind of been my word for the year. And one thing I've come to know is that you always yield to something. You can choose to yield to fear, or you can choose to yield to Christ. Today, we are going to yield to Christ. We are going to yield to the truth that He has created us flawlessly, the truth that He has created our brains to adapt and change and use that information to improve our health. We're going to talk about the term neuroplasticity. Big word, but it's a really good word. Neuroplasticity refers to the brain's ability to change and reorganize itself in response to experiences, learning, or environmental factors. It involves the brain's capacity to form new connections, modify existing connections, and rewire its networks. So your brain can change. You're not stuck in the old ways of thinking all the time. You have the capacity, the ability to change how your brain is thinking. And if you can change how your brain is thinking, you're going to change what neurotransmitters are going to be released. And if you can change neurotransmitter releasing, then you can change what the rest of your body is doing in response to your thoughts. So traditionally, it was believed the brain structure and function were relatively fixed and stable, like you are how you are, and after a certain age, you don't change. However, that research on the brain has shown that the brain is flexible and adaptable, and it plays such a huge role in learning, memory, and recovering from injuries or traumas or any of the things that life throws our way. God knew that we needed a brain that could be flexible. There are two primary forms of neuroplasticity. One of them is structural plasticity, and this refers to changes in the physical structure of the brain. You grow new neurons, you grow new synapses, and you prune unused connections. So that allows the brain to adapt and rewire its circuitry in response to learning or changing in the environment. So if something happens to you and you lose your hand, and that would be an unused pathway, eventually over time the brain would change structurally so that it doesn't even think about using the hand or that the hand isn't there. Functional plasticity involves the brain's ability to reorganize its functional process and tasks, pretty much. So, for example, in a particular brain region, if it's damaged, other areas might compensate for the lost function by taking over responsibilities of the damaged region. So, it allows the brain to adapt and recover lost functions and compensate for its deficits. It is truly, truly amazing. Just know neuroplasticity is influenced by so many factors, including learned experiences. We talked about how your amygdala responds emotionally to things, environmental factors, if you are only sitting all the time versus if you're outside moving, running, that is going to either enrich or deter your brain function. Your physical exercise is going to influence your neuroplasticity. If you are stagnant, you do not have as many capabilities for a flexible brain. And then your sensory stimulation. So it's a lifelong process that occurs across different stages of development, across adulthood as well. Just because you have some years on you doesn't mean your brain can't change. It definitely can. Now, just know that your brain wants to work efficiently. It creates patterns, and it creates patterns based on memory, emotion, and what's going on around you. So, certain threats will automatically elicit the same response in the same way. So, our beliefs and our reactions become built into our brains. That explains why you do the things you do, why things become a habit, why you do them without having to think about them anymore. You why you feel you need to eat a certain way, or why you feel so strongly about that opinion. All of our behaviors and our habits are formed by the little bitty bit that you do every day. The 1% that you do every day forms these neural pathways in our brain that forms them into efficient habits that happen over time. So our brain just knows what to do. So think about it in the positive way that if you are taking advantage of neuroplasticity, you can retrain your brain. You can make small habitual changes day in and day out to create new patterns. So whenever something comes your way, your brain can respond differently. And that is what is going to change your health. Just think, if you come to a situation where automatically the brain has that fight or flight response, stress response, you see that same situation or a similar situation again, you automatically have that response. Your brain will either continue down that pathway, or you can stop, recognize your thought, and choose to think differently. That choosing to think differently and saying, that's not a threat, that won't harm me, I am okay, I am a new man, I have a new created brain, I can form new neural pathways, I do not have to respond the same way, will decrease your stress response, decrease that cortisol release in your body, decrease that anxiety, decrease that fear, because you chose to take control over the thoughts in your mind that are influencing your overall behaviors and habits that are forming over time. If you do not take control, you will notice you respond quicker and quicker to things. It doesn't take much for you to feel anxiety over a situation. So, what is the one thing today that you can change your thought pattern about? If you're not sure, it might take a little bit of investigating to see where you're thinking. So, for instance, if you take a situation today, you're just going about your day, stop yourself. You can set a timer on your phone, you can just make a point in the day, whatever it is, stop yourself. How am I thinking? Am I thinking negatively? Am I thinking positively about the situations that are happening? Then interrupt that thought with a positive thought, or one that is Christ-centered. I think it's really important to try to think that maybe possibly some of the negative thoughts that are going through your mind are not of God, and try to recognize that those thoughts need to be replaced by the Word of God. It is living and it's active and it doesn't return void. So that is my challenge to you today. I hope you guys have a wonderful Monday. Enjoy the rainy weather if you're in my region. And I will be talking to you guys again tomorrow, where we're going to talk about how the brain experiences what's going on around you, and additional ways that you can change that neural pathway and form new neural structures. Y'all have a good one.